Have you ever just sat down, thought to yourself, and was like, I'm too happy right now? Well, sadly, there is no solution for that in the real world. However, in Clinic of Horrors, they do have a solution. You can take some medicine, and instantly you're relieved of your happiness, and you are brought back down to the depressing, dark world that is Clinic of Horrors. On the other side of things, let's say you are extremely depressed and sad. Well, they have a fix for that. They can give you some medicine, and instantly you have the entire world just smiling back at you, and make sure you smile back at them. Now, if you're probably wondering, Clinic of Horrors is a really interesting and creepy series, as you could see. It has a lot of uniqueness to it, and it's pretty much a really fun, dark series. A dark comedy series, I can kind of say. And it has really interesting characters so far that I've read, and it's really easy to actually catch up. Currently, it's sitting at about 30 chapters, and it really only took me about 20 to 30 minutes to really just catch up. It's a really quick read, but honestly, it is actually worth the read. But you're probably wondering to yourself, okay, so Chibi, you showed me some very dark images and interesting premise, but what is it actually about? What is Clinic of Horrors about? Is it something that is worth my time? Well, that's really up to you, honestly, depending on what you're actually into, what you want to read, etc. And if you're not one of those individuals that really like, let's say, dark comedy and kind of like an interesting take on, let's say, medicine or how certain things might be kind of handled, then you might not like it if you're not into that type of stuff. However, if you do like some of the dark type of comedy and storytelling, then this series is potentially going to be for you. Now, as I said, it is an incredibly short series. Yes, I know I said 30 chapters, but the chapters overall in structure are incredibly short. They're about maybe 4 to 5 images, so you can kind of just blast through a chapter incredibly quick. However, there is a story actively going on behind the scenes, building up to the world, and for the most part, in the 30 chapters of the story, it really is focusing on the world building and kind of what to expect. Examples here is that imagine if you were bored. You're like a salary businessman or whatever, and you're just incredibly bored. You want something to really just spice up your mundane life. Well, they have medicine for that in the world, to where you take this medicine and instantly you're turned into a grotesque, hideous monster that is ravaging, destroying the town, and eventually you have to have doctors come in and actually surgically disconnect you from the abomination that you have become. Sadly, once that is said and done, you have to pay for all the legal fees after, you're separated, so all the damages that you cause. So I guess you could say in of itself, like, the medicine did relieve you of your boredom, because now that, you have been brought back to reality, you have quite the hefty fine that makes you constantly have to stress out. So there is stuff like that within Clinic of Horrors. Different examples, like, for instance, a depression plan. Like, this is something that really fascinated me about the world when I was reading, is that apparently there was a black market within the story, and our characters went out of their way to actually buy this plant, this very rare plant called, like, the depression plant. And it's very rare to come by. And when they got it, they took it to this rich man, and they gave it to him, and the man bought it for a really hefty price. And apparently, according to him, the reason why he wanted to actually have that plant was because if he takes it, he will have a, extreme amount of depression and despair. But after that is said and done, the relief of the despair, it'll be greater than anything you could ever feel. For instance, that, the despair is now over. It's a really interesting premise. I do like the way the world is kind of like a commentary on a dystopian future, basically. You could take anything you want or have any medicine to relieve you of certain problems. Are you too happy? They got to fix for that. Are you depressed? They got to fix for that. Are you feeling despair? They got to fix for that. Do you have a mutated face growing on your stomach? They can surgically remove it. However, you're going to have to pay that mutated consciousness money for its startup fund since you actually removed it. There's a lot to really just take in from the story. It's morally ambiguous, I guess you could say, in some circumstances, and I really do love just the characters. Like Brianka, our main lead, our main female character, I instantly love her design. Like, I really do love her design, and I love everything about her character, and kind of how she's so deadpan about things, but at the same time, she's deadpan, apparently, from her actual backstory, which that is something I want to dive into. So, I know, like, the series is definitely a lot of shock value, which I've already shown probably with a lot of images. However, there is definitely stuff going on behind the scenes with the character Brianka. Brianka, like I said, our main female character, she has a chapter kind of focusing on her childhood. And in this brief chapter, it showcases a moment she has with her grandpa. And this grandpa, from what we see, is a very sweet old man. Probably one of the sweetest people we have seen from the entire story to that very point. And the way he's just, really babying, Brianka and just helping her out, like, oh, go get me an ice cream or whatever, oh, that's a beautiful picture, all that type of stuff. He seems like a really loving and caring individual. However, you see the mother next to Brianka, her mother, and she just seems so disconnected. She just seems like she doesn't care. She's like, just let's get on with it. She just feels like she doesn't care about anything. And she legitimately puts down Brianka's, drawing, saying it's kind of a bad picture. And then when, she comes back with the ice cream to give to her grandpa's actually dead. And the mother's like, oh, it happens and all that. People die, I die, you'll die, just get over it. I'm just like, holy crap. The mother truly is a savage and awful individual, which probably explains why Brianka as a character is just so deadpan throughout the entirety of the story so far. Her mother really just messed her up in the head. And obviously, since the series is all about medicine and being able to do anything to really fix yourself, I wonder if the reason why Brianka acts like she does is because she's trying to handle her current problem. Or maybe she is not trying to handle the problem. For instance, she doesn't want to take the medicine and stuff that's in the series, and she just actually wants to try to overcome it on her own. Whatever the case may be, it's a very thought-provoking series, especially with the way the world works, because like I said, it's a dystopian future, and it's clear as day that anything could basically go or happen in this world. Example, like, if you need a loan, they'll give you as much money as you want, but you better pay it back. You'll pay it back one way or another. Either they have to harvest your organs or something. They'll do that. So it's just like, yikes. It is an interesting series, and I do love everything I have read so far. The artwork is actually incredibly beautiful. Like, there's just so many panels. Like, I really do love the line work and the colors and all that. And, when I was just looking, I was like, holy crap. Like, the artist that's working on this series is just really good. Like, it's very impressive. Because I've read a lot of different webtoons, recently. And, like, there's a lot of good art I've seen. They're very distinct, and there's different depictions on how, many different things are drawn. But when you just see Clinic of Horrors, I like how it mixes the cutesy nature with a very depressing and dark tone. I like that. There's not many series that are actually able to properly do that, like convey that to the reader. And I love the art. I think the art is a perfect mesh of what you can come to expect from Clinic of Horrors. But one thing I do want to dive into, though, when it comes to the series before I wrap it up, there is an overall arcing plot being built up. And one of the big plots is apparently the helper to Brianka, or Brianka is technically the helper, and you have Dr. Albright, that is kind of the owner of the clinic. Albright apparently has some form of history with, like, the military, some form of, dark history with his old job, and he's trying to keep it hush-hush and really not tell Brianka at all, because in the latest chapters, when he was surgically removing the guy from the abomination he became, he elaborates, like, oh, he, had a favor he had to do, that, because from his old job, and he doesn't tell Brianka exactly what it was or anything, but it's implied that he knows a lot. It's implied that he was someone that was probably top tier in terms of being like a doctor or whatever, probably on experiments, because when you see the villain reveal with like Mr. Yellow, he is someone that's like, why was this abomination handled so quickly, the mutation? How did it get handled so quickly? And apparently, he was explained to, like, oh, apparently this Dr. Albright, he was able to handle it and all that very quickly, and he wants to, research done into whoever this doctor actually is. So there is build up, and I feel like before everything is said and done, something is going to be done to Brianka or Dr. Albright. One of them are probably going to be turned into a mutation or something, and they're going to have to kind of overcome that. Oh yeah, and before I wrap up the video, I do want to say I love this section of the series in Clinic of Horrors, where we have the nostalgia eye parasite, where you're literally have a filter put over your eyes to see everything nostalgically. For instance, the girl here in question, she was seeing everything in like a magical girl, Sailor Moon 90s anime anime filter, which is just absolutely hilarious, because it's like, in this day and age, many of us always say, oh, you guys are blinded by nostalgia, but legitimately in Clinic of Horrors, you actually can be blinded by nostalgia itself. I do like that. I like how this series also plays with themes like that. But, I like the story so far. Like I said, I cannot recommend it enough. If you're wanting something very short, sweet, but you can really just enjoy week-by-week basis, I think that Clinic of Horrors would definitely be something for you. I mean, I don't think it's going to be for everybody, because it's just the content of it, but it definitely is something enjoyable, so I cannot recommend it enough. But I guess I want to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you, enjoy my content, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot. And, guys, be safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys next time for my next video. If you want to read this series as well, link is in the description. If you click on it, it does help me out as well. But that, be safe. Chibi out.